They feared the fire in you, so they tried to drown you in silence. But even water can't put out a soul that was forged in storms. Chosen one, let's get this straight from the jump. They were never fighting you. They were fighting the force that moves through you. The same force they can't name, can't mimic, can't control. Every whisper behind your back, every smirk, every side eye, that's not shade, that's surrender. Silent admissions that your presence does what they're pretending never could. You've become their favorite topic, not because you begged for attention, but because your evolution is a mirror that shows them everything they're too afraid to become. They say your name like it's a curse, but every time they do, they give you more power. That's the joke. You live rent-free in heads that couldn't afford your energy in the first place. Before we dive deeper, make sure you like and subscribe, not just for yourself, but to help this message reach more chosen ones. When you engage with this, you're telling the algorithm, wake up more giants. The universe has its signals, and this is one of them. Now let's talk about this power you carry, this weight of being chosen. It's not cute, it's not convenient, it doesn't come with applause or comfort. It comes with eyes, eyes that watch, eyes that judge, eyes that want to see you stumble because your standing reminds them they're still crawling. You didn't ask for this light, but now that you've got it, it exposes everything around you. And people don't like being exposed. Not their insecurities, not their laziness, not their envy. So they talk. Oh, do they talk? But the truth is, they're not gossiping, they're confessing. Every time they bring you up, they're letting the world know you haunt them, you move them, you stir something deep they don't want to face. You are not a person to them. You've become a phenomenon, a storm, an eclipse. You block out everything ordinary and remind them that average is a choice. Chosen one, stop wondering why you're always the center of drama you never started. The universe didn't choose you to be liked. It chose you to be loud, even in silence. You shift atmospheres, you bend rooms, you walk in, and the insecure ones feel their masks slip. That's not your fault. That's your nature. And here's the part that hurts, not for you, but for them. You shine without trying. You attract without asking. You move without seeking permission. And that kind of energy, it can't be taught, copied, or shut down. So they try the only thing left. They smear your name, but smear it all you want. Gold doesn't lose its value just because it's dragged through the dirt. It gleams anyway. So no, you're not being talked about because you're doing something wrong. You're being talked about because you're doing everything right. Your growth terrifies them. Your peace disturbs their chaos. Your focus interrupts their distractions. That's why they can't stop. That's why they won't stop. This isn't just about gossip. This is about gravity. Your energy pulls, shifts, and disrupts. That's why you're the hot topic. Not because you're loud, but because you're louder than their fears. Not because you boast, but because you are what they pretend to be. So hold your head high, let them talk, because when the universe chooses you, it marks you, and no amount of small talk can shrink what was destined to rise. Welcome to the spotlight, chosen one, not because you chased it, but because you are it. So if your name stays in their mouth, it's time you understand why. And trust me, once you see the truth behind their obsession, you'll never take it personal again. If you're really one of the chosen, this message will hit different. It'll echo. It'll burn. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you're ready to own the reason you're the headline in rooms you've never stepped in. This is your reminder. Your silence has been louder than their noise. Now, let's put words to that power. And now, let's break it down. piece by piece. Stay with me till the end. If you're truly chosen, you won't be able to look away. Let's get into it. Number 1. When your light walks in, their lies start to choke. They hated your light because it reminded them how long they've been sitting in the dark, pretending they weren't blind. Let's call it what it is. You're not just walking into rooms anymore, you're cracking foundations. Not because you're arrogant, not because you're flashy, but because your presence carries truth, and truth makes liars twitch. It makes the fake uncomfortable. You didn't do anything to them, and that's exactly why they're shook. You're not their enemy. You're the reflection of everything they tried to bury. Chosen one, they were comfortable, too comfortable, living behind the masks they made. Fake smiles, empty confidence, staged success. And then you showed up, not with noise, not with drama, just with realness. And realness, that's a disruptor. It's a natural mirror that doesn't flatter. You didn't expose them, their own reactions did. Let me make this brutally clear. You're not the villain in their story. You're the truth bomb they never planned on encountering. You're the earthquake that hits a fake kingdom and sends all the walls crumbling. That's why they talk. That's why they twist your name. It's not because you wronged them. It's because your existence reveals the lies they've built their entire identity on. And here's the thing, it's not just that they see your light, it's that your light sees through them. That kind of clarity terrifies those who survive off delusion. You don't expose them with words, you expose them by being. Your peace offends their chaos. Your silence screams louder than their performance. And your elevation, that's a personal insult to the ones who tried to bury you. Let's be real, some of them thought you'd never make it out. Some of them needed you to stay down so they could feel up. And when the universe started aligning for you, opening doors, making ways, setting you apart, they panicked. Not because you're winning, but because they realized the game was never fair to begin with. You were chosen, and they were playing against the system that chose you. You were designed to disrupt. Stop apologizing for that. You were built to be the shift, and when the universe chooses someone, it doesn't ask for permission, it just moves. And when it moves in your favor, those who are plotting behind your back will feel it in front of their faces. They'll start to suffocate on the lies they told about you. That's what being chosen does. It rearranges everything around you, even when you're quiet. Especially when you're quiet. You were never meant to blend in, so stop trying. Stop watering yourself down to make other people feel comfortable in their denial. That's not humility, that's self-betrayal. You keep wondering, why me, as if the universe made a mistake. But let me ask you something, why not you? Why wouldn't the universe choose someone who can carry pressure and still rise? Who can stand in silence and still speak truth? The ones who hate you the most right now are the ones who secretly studied you, envied you, mimicked you, and now that they can't reach where you're going, they try to stain your name to cover their jealousy. But that doesn't touch you. It can't. Because when you're chosen, you're protected. Not from attacks, but from being destroyed by them. Your name holds weight even when it's whispered. Even in slander, you shine. And for the chosen ones who doubt themselves, snap out of it. You keep asking why you're alone, why it feels like no one gets you. It's because you weren't made for crowds. You were made for clarity, for purpose. And purpose walks a lonely path. But don't get it twisted. Alone doesn't mean abandoned. The universe walks with you differently. You keep thinking you're in the fight of your life, but what you're really in is alignment. They weren't just fighting you, they were fighting what sent you. That's why it always feels bigger than it should. It is. you represent a threat to systems, not just people. You threaten illusions. You burn through lies. You rattle cages that have been locked for years. And the truth is, their war with you was never going to end in victory. Because how do you destroy what was called by the universe itself? Exactly, you don't. You just talk about it, whisper about it, obsess over it. Chosen one, they don't hate you. They hate what you make them see. Number 2, you're the proof they can't fake and the truth they can't face. They don't hate your wins. They hate the way your wins expose their excuses. Let's stop sugarcoating this. The reason your name is being dragged through backdoor conversations and whispered in insecure circles isn't because you're doing too much. It's because you're doing what they swore couldn't be done without the cheat codes they cling to. You didn't come from privilege, position, or polished connections. You came from pressure, from chaos, from dirt, and still you bloomed. No blueprint, no handouts, no applause. You are walking proof that every excuse they've built their lazy life around is a damn lie. And that's the real reason they can't shut up about you. See, it was easy to play the victim when nobody around them was rising. It was easy to say, well, I don't have this, or I wasn't born with that. But then you showed up, with all the odds stacked against you, with nothing but grit in your chest and fire in your spirit. And you rose anyway. No safety net, no rich uncle, no entourage clapping behind the scenes. Just you, raw, relentless, and real. They hate that because now the mirror is unavoidable. Now their comfort zone feels tight. Now the lies they told themselves to sleep better don't work anymore because your existence, chosen one, is evidence. Evidence that discipline beats distractions, that pain can build power, that isolation isn't abandonment, it's preparation. You didn't wait for the green light. You became the green light while they were waiting for support, for timing, for someone to come save them. You saved yourself. You bled and built at the same time. You kept walking when every voice around you told you to sit down. You were doubted, mocked, overlooked, and still you rose. Not once, not lucky, consistently. You built while broken. You spoke life into your own silence. You survived rooms that were designed to break people like you. And now they want to rewrite your story, make it look like it was easy or lucky. Because acknowledging the real truth, that would force them to confront their own inaction. And that is too painful. So what do? They smear, they whisper, they throw shade and call it concern. They say you changed, when really you just outgrew the cage they were comfortable in. They act like you cheated the game, when in reality you mastered the grind. They needed you to fail so their laziness would feel justified, but you didn't, and now they're choking on the silence that follows your success. Chosen one, let me be even more clear. You are not just winning, you're winning in a way that terrifies cowards. You didn't follow the script, you ripped it up. You didn't wait for applause, you moved in silence until the results were too loud to ignore. And now, every time you level up, you strip away one more excuse they used to cling to. You're not supposed to be where you are. That's what makes it hurt. Not for you, for them. You weren't given a seat at the table, so you built your own damn table and brought your own plate. You didn't cry for inclusion. You created impact. You didn't ask to be seen. You became undeniable. And they hate undeniable, because the undeniable can't be spun, it can't be rewritten, it can't be ignored. You've become the living, breathing reminder that what they lack isn't opportunity, it's discipline, it's consistency, it's the courage to be uncomfortable long enough to grow. They don't hate you, they hate what your life reveals about theirs. And you know what's wild? Deep down, some of them know you should have quit. They know you had every reason to fold. They saw you walk through hell, and they still convinced themselves you had it easy, because it's easier than admitting they would have never survived what you kept walking through. You did the work they're still afraid to start, so now they call you lucky. Luck? Nah, you're not lucky. You're built. Built from rejection, built from betrayal, built from late nights with no help, no hope, just hunger. You didn't get handed anything, you earned it. And that's what makes it untouchable. Understand this, chosen ones are not envied because of what they have. They're envied because of what they endured. Because the truth is, most people want the results, but not the resilience. They want the shine, but not the shadows. They want the power, but not the pain that comes with it. You took the whole journey, ugly, raw, unfiltered, and you came out stronger. And that strength, it haunts them. Because you're not supposed to be the one. You're not the right look, the right background, the right pedigree, and yet you are the proof, the evidence that the system lied, that the formula they sold was flawed, that anyone can rise, but few actually will. And here's what really burns them. The universe started moving for you once you decided to move without it. You didn't wait for signs. You became the signal. You aligned yourself with the vision, not the validation. And once that happened, the same universe they were mocking you under started aligning in your favor. That's not magic. That's alignment. That's what happens when chosen ones stop asking for permission and start walking in truth. So no, you didn't cheat. You didn't fake it. You didn't luck out. You showed up consistently, brutally, fearlessly, and every time they said, "You can't," you whispered, "Watch me," and kept moving. Now you're living what they never had the guts to even start. So let them talk. Let them twist it, because behind all the noise is one loud truth they're too ashamed to say out loud. You did it without the things they swore were necessary, and now they have no more excuses left to hide behind. Chosen one, you didn't just break through, you broke the lie. And that's why you're the topic of every conversation. Because you're not just success, you're a threat to every lazy justification they've ever built. You're the walking truth, and truth always hits the hardest when it walks in without saying a word. Number 3, they watch you like a manual. Because you became the blueprint they were never given. They mock what they don't understand, but study it when no one's looking. You are the lesson they swore they didn't need, until life exposed their ignorance. You've got eyes on you that would never admit they admire you. People who once rolled their eyes now replay your moves in silence. Not because they respect you yet, but because your existence forces them to confront what they don't know, what they've never felt, and what they're too scared to become. You've become the instruction manual they never got, the blueprint for a kind of success that doesn't follow the script, a kind of power that isn't bought, inherited, or passed down. It's earned in silence, in storms, in solitude. They don't ask, they watch. They won't compliment you, but they'll copy you. They won't acknowledge your strength, but they'll study your survival. Because chosen one, whether you realize it or not, you've become a living syllabus for transformation. You show them what it looks like to rise without approval, to shine without followers, to lead without titles. That rattles people, especially the ones who base their entire identity on being seen. You confuse them, because you don't walk in with the credentials they respect. No famous name, no fancy background, no permission from society's gatekeepers. Yet you carry something they can't measure, a presence, a knowing, a calm that storms can't shake, and that unnerves them, because it's not coming from anything they can trace. It's not found in their books or taught in their systems. It's ancestral, cosmic, unwritten, and they hate what they can't define. You speak from a place that cuts deeper than intellect. You move like someone who doesn't second-guess every step. And when you fall, you rise without flinching. That's not luck, that's alignment. That's the spirit of someone who's wrestled in the dark long enough to know the way out, blindfolded. They see it, they feel it, they just don't know how to process it, so they label it, they reduce it, they twist it into something easier to ignore. She's different. He's doing too much. They've changed. No, you evolved, and evolution is offensive to those who refuse to grow. See, they're watching your healing journey like a reality show. They tune in not because they care, but because they crave the clarity you walk in. You stopped faking smiles, and that gave them permission to question their own mask. You started protecting your peace, and now their chaos feels loud. You said no without guilt, and suddenly their people-pleasing looks like a prison. They gossip because they can't grasp it. They whisper because they're afraid to ask what they really want to know. How did you find peace without becoming cold? How did you heal without losing your softness? How are you still standing after everything that tried to break you? What they want isn't your success, it's your center, your ability to move through life without being shaken by every opinion or obstacle. You became the quiet storm, the steady flame, the one who learned that true power isn't about control, it's about alignment. And here's what hits even harder. You never begged to be the example. You never asked to be watched. But that's what happens when you're chosen. You walk through hell and people take notes, not out loud, not directly, but privately, obsessively. They start adjusting their steps based on yours. They copy your phrases, adopt your posture, mirror your mindset, and still pretend they don't see you. That's fine. That's part of it. You're not meant to be understood by everyone. You're meant to awaken, to shake things loose, to disrupt generational patterns just by existing in alignment. You weren't born to fit the mold. They study the mold because you shattered it. And chosen one, don't let that responsibility scare you. You don't need to be perfect to be the blueprint. You don't need to have it all together. Your power isn't in pretending everything is fine. It's in how you carry your mess without letting it bury your light. Your scars are sacred. Your stumbles are part of the testimony. You don't have to walk a straight line. Your journey is a sacred spiral with wisdom at every turn. That's why they can't copy it. Because this isn't a trend. This isn't branding. This isn't strategy. It's soul work. And soul work can't be faked. It must be felt. That's the real reason they can't replicate you. You're not following aesthetics, you're following alignment. You don't speak for attention, you speak from conviction. You don't perform, you embody. And it kills them, because all their performance, all their curated image, all their noise still can't touch the impact of your quiet authenticity. So don't water yourself down just because they're uncomfortable with your depth. Don't shrink just because they don't understand your language. Keep walking in truth. Keep showing up as you. Because whether they admit it or not, your life is teaching them something they never learned in school, church, or boardrooms: how to be real. You are the manual they didn't know they needed, a living lesson in resilience, a guidebook in human form. And even if they'll never say it out loud, they're still watching, still learning, still shifting because of your example. Chosen one, you're not just being studied, you're being followed. Not because you tried to lead, but because truth always leaves a trail. Number 4, your presence doesn't break rules, it breaks the illusion of control. They built the system to be manipulated, but your truth jammed the gears. Now they don't know whether to fear you, fight you, or follow you. You don't walk into spaces trying to shake things up. You just do. Not because you're loud, not because you're aggressive, but because your energy doesn't bend. It doesn't play the game. It doesn't need to. And that alone sends shockwaves through environments built on pretense, performance, and politics. You don't ask for attention, but you get it. You don't crave validation, but you attract it. Because when the world is full of copies, originals cause chaos. You, chosen one, are a walking disruption. You make liars uncomfortable without opening your mouth. You make manipulators nervous just by standing still. Why? Because systems built on ego, gossip, and silent competition depend on people playing along. Most of the world runs on quiet agreements. Pretend you like people you don't. Pretend to respect people who abuse power. Pretend to be small so others can feel big. But you didn't sign that contract. You never agreed to the lie. You show up real, raw, and unbothered. And in rooms built on illusion, authenticity is violence. Not physical violence, but spiritual confrontation. You being you breaks the trance. It reminds people what truth feels like, what alignment looks like, and those who rely on deception, flattery, and politics, they feel the shift instantly. You don't play along, and that breaks their hold. They don't know what to do with you because you can't be controlled. You won't fake laugh. You won't suck up to authority. You won't clap for dysfunction just to keep the peace. Your peace isn't for sale. That's the part that terrifies them. Your energy doesn't beg for approval. It commands respect without a single demand. And when people can't manipulate you, they label you. Difficult, cold, too much, no, too real. Your refusal to perform exposes the performance in others. And trust me, they feel it in their bones. You don't have to call out the game. Your presence makes the game look foolish. You're not trying to be in control. You just refuse to be controlled. And when you're not feeding egos or fueling their fake sense of power, they start to panic. They don't feel big anymore when you're in the room. They feel seen. That's the danger of your light. It doesn't just illuminate your path. It exposes everything around it. It reveals the puppeteers behind the curtains. It spotlights the lies dressed up as leadership. It shows who's standing on truth and who's balancing on a throne made of shadows. And once you show up, no one can unsee it. You've shattered their silence. You've broken their unspoken rules. You've reminded people that freedom is an option. And freedom is contagious. That's why they fear you. That's why they start whispering. That's why they try to isolate you, discredit you, or drain your energy. Because if too many people watch you long enough, they might stop complying too. They might stop clapping for manipulation. They might stop bowing to titles, trends, or tyrants. You represent another way, a better way, a real way. Chosen one, you're not a threat because you're trying to tear things down. You're a threat because you walk in without needing what they built. You don't need the spotlight. You don't need the approval. You don't need the applause. And that kind of power can't be bought, bribed, or bullied. It can only be respected or feared. And most will choose fear because respect requires inner work, and they're not ready for that. So what do they do instead? They twist your narrative. They act like you're aggressive when you're just assertive. They act like you're arrogant when you're just self-aware. They pretend your clarity is confrontation. But let's be real, they're not confused. They're just scared of what you represent, the end of their illusion. Your silence screams truth. Your boundaries break cycles. Your energy neutralizes manipulation. And people who relied on that manipulation, they start to lose power when you show up. And yet, here's the kicker. You're not even trying to win. you're not playing their game at all. That's what cuts the deepest. Because when someone plays the game better, you respect it. But when someone refuses to play and still rises, that's soul-shaking. You didn't break their rules. You broke their system, their way of surviving, their need for masks and manipulation. You walked in with truth, and it made everything else look fake. You didn't scream. You just stood. And that was louder than anything they'd ever heard. So no, you're not too intense. You're not too much. You're not the problem. You're just not programmable. That's what's got them scrambling. That's why you're the hot topic. Because while they're busy learning how to play the game, you became the glitch in it. Chosen one, stay unbothered. Keep disrupting. Keep being the one who won't fake smile, won't play small, won't give in to the cult of conformity. Your presence alone has shifted atmospheres. Your refusal to be manipulated is freedom on display. And freedom? Freedom is always dangerous to those who built their power on chains. Number 5. When they can't control you, they try to control your narrative. They couldn't break you, so they're busy breaking your name. But lies spoken in fear can't undo a life built in truth. Let's be real, chosen one. Control was always the point. Not connection, not love, not loyalty. Control. And the moment they realized they couldn't control you, that's when the noise started. That's when your name suddenly got heavy in their mouths, not because of what you did, but because of what they couldn't do to you. You became unmanageable, untouchable, and that drove their egos to madness. Most people operate with tools of quiet manipulation, guilt trips, fake praise, subtle threats, silent treatment. And for a while, that worked on others. A little compliment here to reel someone in. A passive-aggressive stare to shut someone down. A few drops of fake love to keep people hooked. But you didn't bite. You didn't fold. You didn't dance when they pulled the strings. And that shattered them. You're not motivated by approval. You don't beg for seats at tables built on pretense. You don't water yourself down to fit in rooms that reek of insecurity. That kind of clarity, that kind of inner freedom. It offends people who are addicted to control, because once they can't control how you move, they switch tactics. If they can't control you, they'll try to control how others see you. Enter the gossip, the cheap weapon of the powerless, the whisper campaign, the distorted versions of your story, the "did you hear about them?" energy from people who can't even face their own reflection, let alone your truth. Because what else can they do? You've slipped through their grip, and now they're trying to strangle your reputation in hopes of pulling you back into their shadow. They twist your confidence into arrogance because it threatens their need to be superior. They paint your boundaries as bitterness because they're furious you stopped letting them use you. They call your silence fake and your distance cold because your absence made them irrelevant. But what they fail to realize is that none of it touches you. Because when you're chosen, you don't need image protection. The truth protects you. Your alignment speaks louder than their lies. You didn't build your name on noise, so it can't be destroyed by it either. Here's what they don't want to admit. They lost their grip on you, and now they're exposed. Their power didn't come from strength, it came from your silence. And now that you've found your voice, your peace, your non-reactivity, they feel it like a withdrawal, like a hit they can't get anymore. Because let's be honest, what they miss isn't you. It's the control they had over you, the way they could push buttons and pull strings and watch you fold. But those days are over. You've elevated, and elevation demands disconnection. You stopped responding to the old games, and now they're throwing tantrums in the form of character assassination. But let them talk. Let them spill their insecurity out loud. Every lie they spread about you exposes the truth of them. Because chosen ones, we don't move from defense, we don't chase rumors, we don't explain our growth to those committed to misunderstanding us. We live, and our life, our alignment, silences every false narrative. You're not in the business of managing opinions, you're in the business of manifesting truth. You can't be guilted, you can't be flattered, you can't be bought, and that makes you dangerous to people who survive by puppeteering the weak. They don't fear you because you did something to them. They fear you because they can't do anything to you. That's power, that's freedom, that's divine immunity. And here's where it hits even harder. Your non-response is the loudest answer. You don't clap back, you glow back, you don't argue, you elevate. That's what breaks them. Not your anger, but your indifference. Not your presence, but your refusal to engage. They want the drama, you chose the peace. They want the show, you chose the silence. They want you reactive, you became untouchable. They called it arrogance when you stopped explaining yourself, but it was just self-respect. They called it bitterness when you drew the line, but it was healing. They said you changed. You did. You stopped betraying your spirit to keep the peace in rooms that never had any. Let them keep talking. Their words are their confession, not your truth. They'll try to poison your name, but anyone who truly knows you can taste the lie. And those who believe the noise, they were never for you to begin with. Let the fake fall away. Let the masks slide off. Let the truth do what it always does. Stand unshaken. You didn't lose anything. They did. They lost the version of you that tolerated disrespect, dimmed your light, and danced around egos. And now that you're walking in your full power, they can't touch you, so they try to touch your image. But when you're chosen, your name echoes through rooms your enemies could never enter. They can speak on you, but they can't stop you. So keep walking, keep rising, keep breaking out of every box they try to shrink you into. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe them a version of you they can manipulate. You owe yourself truth. And the truth is this: they're not talking because you're wrong. They're talking because you're free, and freedom terrifies cowards. Number 6. They call it arrogance because they've never met peace that doesn't perform. To the insecure, calm is arrogance, boundaries are bitterness, and self-worth is an insult. Let's get this out of the way. They're not reacting to your attitude, they're reacting to your absence from the stage of performance, the trap of validation, the circus of pretending. You've stepped out of that game, and now your peace feels like an offense. You're not performing for applause, shrinking for comfort, or tap dancing around egos. And for people who only know how to measure worth through noise, that silence screams. You used to twist yourself just to be digestible. Speak gently so they wouldn't feel insecure. Smile when you felt unseen. Agree when you knew it was nonsense. You played the part until your soul started suffocating. And then you stopped. You put down the mask. You dropped the script. And the moment you chose peace over performance, the real noise began. Not from you, but from them. Now they look at you sideways. She's changed. He's distant. They think they're better. No, you're not better. You're just done. Done betraying your own spirit for spaces that never deserved access. Done explaining your quiet. Done apologizing for your growth. What they call cold is actually the warmth you now reserve for yourself. What they call arrogant is the power of someone who doesn't need outside confirmation to feel whole. See, your calm rattles cages, because they've never experienced stillness that isn't rooted in submission. They only know how to exist by making noise, by chasing eyes, by attaching value to how seen they are. But you could disappear from the crowd and still feel full, and that terrifies them. because their self-worth was built in a house of mirrors. Yours was forged in solitude. You don't speak unless it matters. You don't explain what doesn't need defense. You don't rush to prove you're right, because peace doesn't beg for understanding. It just is. And the people who still perform, they look at that and see a threat, because your calm is louder than their chaos. Your stillness exposes their need for noise. You're not better than anyone. You've just been through enough to know the cost of abandoning yourself for acceptance. You've cried in silence, healed in shadows, walked away without closure. You've been humbled by life in ways they couldn't survive. And now that you've made it through, you don't need to speak to prove anything. You are the proof. But the ones still in chains, mental, emotional, spiritual, they see your freedom and call it ego. They're still clapping for acceptance. You're clapping in silence for survival. Big difference. They confuse your lack of need with a superiority complex. But the truth? You just outgrew the need to be understood. And once you no longer need to be understood, people feel like they've lost control of how to place you. You're unbothered now, and that unbothered energy makes people who feed on validation feel invisible. Not because you're ignoring them, but because you're no longer orbiting their opinions. You stopped shrinking, and now they feel small. That's not your problem. That's a projection. And it's not your job to shrink just to help them stay comfortable in their illusion. Your calm isn't arrogance, it's ownership. Ownership of your energy, of your time, of your space. You're no longer available for fake conversations, small talk that leads nowhere, or performances that drain your soul. And the minute you drew that line, they labeled it like they always do. Because when they can't access you, they try to label you. And when labels fail, they try to cancel you with gossip. But here's what they'll never understand. True peace doesn't need protection. It protects you. It walks into a room and shifts the energy without a sound. That's what you carry now. That's why you feel different. Because you are. You stopped chasing, stopped convincing, stopped folding, and now you stand in a quiet confidence that can't be bought, taught, or faked. And that makes people twitch, because they don't know who they are without applause. But you found yourself in silence. You met your strength in solitude. You don't need to be seen anymore. You just are. So when they whisper, who do they think they are? Tell them silently with your walk, I am someone who stopped needing you to approve of me to breathe. Chosen one, you didn't change. You returned. Returned to your center. Returned to your power. Returned to the place before the world told you to perform for love, hustle for validation, or compete for belonging. You found peace. And now they call it arrogance because they've never known what peace looks like on someone who's not trying to impress them. Let them talk. Let them twist it. Let them label what they'll never understand. Because the moment you chose peace over performance, you became a threat to every space that profits off insecurity. And threats, they don't need to shout. They just stand and shine, unapologetically. Number 7, you're the proof that favor isn't earned, it's aligned. They followed every rule and still got ignored. You broke the script and still got noticed. That's not luck, that's alignment. Here's the truth that chokes people up in silence. You didn't do it their way, and you still rose. You didn't flatter the right people. You didn't fit the mold. You didn't play by their rules. And still, you're here, aligned, elevated, winning, watched. And that reality messes with them in a way they'll never admit out loud. They needed to believe that life was transactional, that if they suffered enough, performed enough, smiled wide enough, they'd earn success, respect, or spotlight. They treated favor like a vending machine. Insert pain, get a prize. But then you showed up. and your presence cracked their entire belief system. You didn't play the game. You didn't sit in rooms hoping to be chosen. You didn't play small for approval. You weren't even looking to be seen. You just kept moving, quietly, consistently, honestly. And now, your life looks like the outcome they were chasing with every mask, every performance, every pretend connection. That's the part that breaks them. You didn't do what they did, you refused to, and you still received what they thought only came through struggle and politics. They tried to climb the ladder, you built your own. Because what you carry, it can't be bought, borrowed, or stolen. It's not the result of perfect timing or perfect background. It's alignment. It's what happens when you stop performing and start embodying. You became the version of yourself that the universe could move through, and it moved. That's why they talk. That's why they twist it. That's why they study your life like a glitch in the system. Because you weren't supposed to make it, not by their rules. You weren't in the right circle. You didn't follow the formula. You didn't chase applause or play politics. But here you are, centered, grounded, visible. And that visibility, it hurts them. Not because you did anything wrong, but because you did it without them. You didn't beg for access. You didn't trade your integrity. You didn't have to suffer publicly just to be worthy. You just walked in alignment, and the universe responded. They're mad because you didn't earn it by their standards. But what they don't get is this. Favor doesn't come from struggle. It comes from authenticity. It comes from the quiet work, the private healing, the relentless focus when nobody's watching. It's not flashy. It's not loud. But when it hits, it's undeniable. You carry something they don't understand, not because they can't, but because they won't slow down long enough to align with it. They're too busy performing. You stopped performing and became real. And real can't be imitated. Real can't be duplicated. Real disrupts every space where fake has been winning. You are proof that favor has nothing to do with popularity. You're proof that silence holds more power than noise. You're proof that when you're aligned, when you're whole, when you're you, things just move. Paths open, people shift, opportunities rise to meet you, and not because you begged, but because you were ready. That's why they hate it. They tried to earn what you simply embodied. They're still running in circles, chasing permission. You became your own validation. They're still waiting for recognition. You moved like you didn't need it, and that's exactly why it found you. So let them call it luck. Let them reduce it. Let them whisper about what they don't understand. Because here's the part they'll never be able to touch. You didn't win because you played the system. You won because you outgrew it. You are not a product of privilege. You are not the result of performance. You are not here because someone handed it to you. You are where you are because of alignment, because the version of you that you fought to become could no longer be ignored. And the hardest pill they'll ever have to swallow, you didn't chase favor, you attracted it, by being who they were too afraid to become. So no, chosen one, you weren't picked because of a sad story. You weren't promoted because of pity. You don't glow because of suffering. You glow because you aligned. You trusted the pull. You shed what wasn't real. And you stepped into what always was. And that can't be faked. It can't be bought. It can't be copied. It can only be resented by those who are still performing in rooms you've already outgrown. So now you see it. You're not the problem, you're the pattern breaker. The reason they watch, whisper, and wonder is because you've become everything they said was impossible. You didn't ask for the spotlight. It found you. And now they're left wrestling with a truth they can't ignore. You were always the chosen one. If this message hit home, like the video, subscribe if you have not already for more truths the world tries to silence, and drop the number 77 in the comments if you're done playing small. Share this with another chosen one who needs the reminder They're not crazy. They're chosen.